Hello, hello. How's everyone doing today?
Doing great.
Doing great, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
So, my name is Tanay, and welcome to the October edition of the Blazor Community Standup. So, this is essentially where we showcase a bunch of amazing things happening within the Blazor community. And today we have with us two very special guests, Hanan and Jonny, who are the co-creators of the MudBlazor framework. So, would you like to introduce yourselves? Let's start with, say, Jonny.
Yeah, okay, sure. My name is Jonny Larsson from Sweden. I started this library together with Hanan last year, I think, in the end of the summer. So it's been a quick journey.
Awesome. Great to have you with us. And Hanan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks to have us. My name is Meinrad Recheis from Austria, and I'm very excited to be here and show our library.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for joining us. I don't believe I fully introduced myself, so I guess I'll do that now. My name is Tanay, and I'm an engineer on the Blazor framework within Microsoft. And we also have with us John.
Hi, I'm John. I'm a PM on the .NET community team.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Okay, awesome. So let's start off with some community links. So this is just a bunch of amazing stuff that's happening within our community, within Blazor. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so I hope you're able to see that now. Let's start off with the first link. The first link is for ahead of time compilation for Blazor WASM. Now, this is a feature that was actually introduced, I believe, in preview 4 of .NET 6, but it's fully available now, and it works pretty well. So this article essentially goes through what exactly ahead of time compilation is and how to use it within, say, Visual Studio. Some of the advantages of ahead of time compilation is it's a bit faster to run and you get a lot of performance benefits. But at the same time, there's of course a trade-off of since everything is compiled ahead of time, the actual compilation times are a bit longer, and you're also loading some more DLLs, and such as there's more network bandwidth that you need to account for. So something like an intranet environment where everything is being served locally would be a great use case for this, because load times and stuff like that isn't as big a concern. So that's just one possible example. So this article just goes through how to use it and how this amazing feature works. So that's basically it for that one. The next link I have here is an article explaining how to secure an API using Azure Active Directory. So again, this is a pretty straightforward article. It also has the associated GitHub code for actually how to use it and so on. And it just takes you through the step-by-step instructions on securing the API, how to integrate with Azure AD and Microsoft Identity and all that kind of stuff. So it's all pretty straightforward. And if this is something that you've been thinking about doing, I definitely recommend you check out this article. So let's move on to the next link here.
Damien does a great job with those, by the way. He's been doing different series on integrating with like Microsoft Graph and all these identity things. And a lot of those, it's easy to find docs that'll give you like just the beginning hello world level, and he usually takes them a good amount deeper and then includes the code at the end. So that really good.
Yep. For sure. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Now, I found this article to be really interesting because they're actually creating a game within Blazor. So they're using this framework called Babylon.js. They're wrapping the framework, so providing, say, TypeScript definition files as well as .NET interfaces, and then communicating with it to actually create a fully fledged game. I believe this article series is still in production. So like if you click through the next articles, you can see where they are right now. But it seems really promising, and it's a really interesting use case for Blazor, where some may think Blazor is primarily for, say, line of business applications. This shows that it has a really wide-ranging application set. So I found that to be really interesting for this article. One of the things that this article actually highlights is this additional framework or project that they've created, which is a TypeScript interrupt generator. So as I was mentioning earlier, to create the game, they're using Babylon.js. To actually use Babylon.js with Blazor, they're actually wrapping the library. So this includes the associated TypeScript bindings as well as the .NET interfaces. So I believe that's actually highlighted over here. So yeah, so you see the TypeScript interface as well as the .NET interface. So this allows you to work with it a lot more directly in a type-safe manner. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is a GitHub project for the Blazor transitionable route. Now, essentially what this does is it provides UI and UX animations to move between Blazor pages and just to create a smoother experience for users. So I've seen a lot of people asking for something like this, so I really wanted to highlight this amazing community project that achieves just that.
Wow, that's so. How is that easy to implement then? It's just set up as a route?
I believe so. So they have the instructions right here. It requires adding the scope service. And from there, I saw this a couple of days ago, so I don't remember the specifics. But yeah, it seems to be fairly easy to implement. You just set up the appropriate route templates and so on, and you're on your way.
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah. Okay. From there, let's move on to this. This is a GitHub issue, and it's a bit meta. This is our our public call to action for the ASP.NET Core 7 ideas. So internally, we're starting to do some of the planning for Core 7, and we want to get all community feedback and ideas and stuff like that that you want to see for Core 7. And we're going to be using all of these ideas to help our planning and our decision making on what we actually want to be delivering for .NET 7. So to start off, I would recommend you just head over to the ASP.NET Core repo, go into the Issues tab, and here you're able to search issues and so on, or apply the area Blazor label to see some of the issues that are already there. And if this is something that you would possibly be interested in seeing for .NET 7, I'd recommend you just give it an upload so we can gauge the community interest in different areas and figure out where the interest is. Okay. And I also wanted to highlight .NET Conf. This is about a month out now, but it will be the actual launch for .NET 6. So right now we're going into the final release candidates and so on. So this is going to be about a 3-day conference, and you're going to see presentations from a bunch of amazing speakers to showcase a lot of the great functionality of .NET 6. And speaking of the final release candidates, the RC2 release literally just got released. Yes, I wasn't even sure if the page was going to load or not, but it just got released a couple of minutes back. So highly recommend you check this out as well. Shows all the great features that are coming in .NET 6 RC2 and a lot of things that are new to Blazor as well. So yeah, I will send this link in the chat. I don't even believe I got a chance to include it in the URL list. It's right hot off the press. Okay,
yeah, that's a good thing, to point out for people, because we're on this yearly release cycle. Like your previous, we've got the .NET 6 release candidates and .NET Conf coming out soon, and then .NET 7 following soon after. So .NET 6 pretty much wrapped up, and .NET 7. Like, if there are things you wish were in .NET 6, now's the time to say, hey, let's get it in there for 7. So.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a really exciting time. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting that community feedback as well. Okay, so that is basically it for the community links. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And from here, we're essentially going to hand it off to Jonny and Hen, who are going to be showing a lot of the amazing features for MudBlazor. So, Jonny, do you want to start it off, or Hen?
Yeah, I will start with a short introduction. Do you see that good?
Yeah.
Great. So What is MudBlazor? For everyone who doesn't know, it's a Blazor component library. We have around 70 components today. It's been a pretty quick journey. A lot of new features and feature requests coming in. But around now we kind of feel future complete component-wise. We're missing some, but we would like to focus on a more stable product and not make too big changes to our API. So now we really need to focus a little more on stability, maybe. We have this no dependency kind of policy. We don't use any other libraries and we're not dependent on them for, let's say, specific component stuff like a date picker or some JavaScript library or whatever it can be. We develop everything ourselves, either from the ground up or we start from a base from some code that's been donated to us. It's pretty much entirely in C#, Blazor. Do you want to say something about that, Henon?
Yeah, that's, I think, is our USP, I think, because I myself come from a WPF background, and I used some JavaScript libraries for web development, and what I hated about that was that I wasn't able to go into the components and fix bugs myself. So, and I saw that many Blazor libraries just use off-the-shelf JavaScript components and wrap them, and then when you have to go in and debug and fix bugs, then that's a huge problem for a C# developer. Yeah, so what we wanted to have is a fully a library that is just entirely in C#. We couldn't do it 100%, but it's 99% C# and only some special things are in JavaScript. And we are seeing that this is what a lot of .NET developers like about our library, because they can set breakpoints in the library and debug it if there is an issue. They can easily extend it, and we are seeing a huge amount of contributions from the community, which is attributed to that.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, and we had a few questions in the chat about whether it's free, and so it's 100% free, right?
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I will jump to the next. It's built. Why we started this was maybe because 1 year ago I was doing some like hobby development for where I work for application, and I noticed I spent so much time on doing. I spent time on doing buttons, doing CSS for buttons, and building components. And at work, I didn't want to waste time on that. I want to do cool functions for production. So I started my own, and I tried like every other library out there. I didn't feel like anyone looked and felt and behaved how I liked it, and some of them were really like over-engineered or very hard to get into component-wise, or when you try to contribute. So the base of MudBlazor is kind of that we built it with the thought that it should be look good and feel good, and all components are pretty much connected today with a theme provided with a theme provider. Some stuff is still missing, and we're trying to implement it better with the theme provider. The default theme that MudBlazor comes with is based on material design, but you can change like border radius, elevations, fonts, Only thing missing is like density or sizing options if you want to compress it a bit. Because I noticed myself, and I know Henon told me as well, that material design out of the box isn't really that great for like software for companies where you need a lot of data in the same page. And the theming is entirely done in C#. You don't need to know any CSS or whatever if you're following the basic stuff. If you want to do custom things, it's always good to know CSS, of course. And as it says in the next simple CSS framework, we have built our own CSS framework, I would call it now. We don't use Bootstrap or anything like that, but we still provide CSS utilities like spacing, padding, margin, these default classes that some of you are used to.
Yeah, they are very handy. So if you want to quickly add margin to a component, you can just add a class. I want to have a top margin of, say, 16 pixels, then it's MT4, yeah, or if you want more, then it's MT5, so margin top 5, and the same for padding, then for flex and corners and so on. There's some very simple CSS classes, very handy.
Yeah, I'm gonna show them a little bit later. But other than that, since we do the CSS and we do the framework, we don't need to spend time updating it or make it work with the new versions of a third-party CSS framework. This can seem intimidating if you don't know CSS, but you don't need to know much about it at all. It's pretty straightforward, really well documented. Other than that, we have full RTL support now. Right to left should have. We have some guys that have been working really hard on making that work.
Okay, awesome. We actually have a question in the chat, if you don't mind. Someone's asking, is it mobile responsive?
Yeah, it is. Of course, it also kind of depends on how the developer utilizes our tools and components, but it totally is. Yeah, we have a hidden and we have breakpoints. I can actually cheat a little and show you here now on our documentation page. I don't know, is this good?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we have
Nice.
all different breakpoints that is implemented in several components.
Yeah, you can configure them. If you don't like the sizes we chose, you can configure it. Then there's the grid component, which automatically wraps the columns for you. And some components have it built in, like the table.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. So we'll show you more of this a little bit later. Yes. This is for you, Henon.
Okay, so what's nice about our inputs, like text field select, autocomplete, checkbox, switch, radio group, numeric field, slide end, so on and so forth, is that they are all generic. So you can directly bind your model to them. Doesn't matter if it is a double or it is a nullable int or whatever. All the primitive types and their nullable versions are supported by our input components. And to make this work, there's a converter which automatically converts the primitive type to string for display, like in a text field. And when the user enters the value, then it is automatically converted back to the primitive type. This is also customizable. You can set your culture, you can set formatting options. For instance, if you like, let's say, a double with with uh, with um, with two digits, then you set that formatting like you know it from C# with a C# formatting string, and it automatically does that. And also, of course, you can supply your own converter, your own conversion functions if that is not enough. Okay, next slide.
That's actually a really big deal, what you just showed there. I mean, that seems like a minor feature, but always having to handle conversions going back and forth is frustrating, and it gets in your way. And so that's a really, really nice feature.
Yeah. Okay, the next is date picker, which we are pretty proud of. It supports different calendars, so you set your culture. And what you see here is a Persian calendar. Right now they are in the 1399, and we spent quite some time to get this right, so we had to show it.
Awesome. We actually have a question regarding the dates. So let me just pop it up here. Someone's asking, so in .NET 6, there's a new date-only and time-only types. So someone's asking if there's support for the date-only for the date picker component.
I would say please post an issue, and we're going to look at that.
Awesome. Sounds great. So... And there, just while we're at it, there are actually a few questions in the chat asking why it's called MudBlazor. Does it stand for something?
No, it doesn't really mean anything. I made a completely different application a long time ago that had a reference to military radars, and when I started with this project in my free time. To kind of be used on that other project, I picked a similar name.
Oh, awesome! Sounds good. Well, there you go for those. Sorry, Henry.
And it really doesn't really matter how something is called. That's my opinion. As long as it's good, then.
Yeah, for sure. Doesn't matter what it's called. It matters what it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah. Go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, should I go with next slide?
Go to the next slide, please. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a little history lesson, maybe. When we were implementing the pickers, date picker, time picker, were the first pickers we had in MudBlazor. I think Henel said that we will need to add the JavaScript to create these. If you looked at the materials specification and what other libraries, how they looked and felt, this was kind of not how they looked. Now these pictures are from MudBlazor, but it was what we were going for. So I don't know if I can ask you two a question. How do you think we made it?
How did you create this?
Yeah. How is it made, technically? We don't have to go into deep depths.
I would be tempted to use SVG.
SVG, yeah.
Yeah, I would say SVG, though. I guess you could do it via just pure CSS, just to get a smaller file size, perhaps, simply because we're working with a couple of ellipses, a line, and a larger ellipsis around it. So, not quite sure.
Let's take a look at it. First, I just want to say I'm sure there is probably a better way of doing it when you look at performance, but
yeah, I said we are gonna need JavaScript for this, and Jonny proved me wrong.
yeah. I like when people want to add more JavaScript into the library. I always kind of like, why? Can we do it in another way? Can we think outside the box? Why do like everyone else have done in years? Try something new. So it have all the basics. It have the drag functionality. It have the click one, so you can open.
Ooh, nice.
24-hour mode. Now it looks a little weird because I zoomed in, but and it have action buttons and so on.
Yeah, you can have 24-hour mode, you can have 12-hour mode, which was, by the way, quite heavy to, to implement. It's a mindfuck. Especially for a European.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do this to have a little more clean.
By the way, this is something several people asked or talked about in the chat. You're showing try MudBlazor now, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm showing it a little too early. I'm gonna talk about it later. But try MudBlazor is something Henon created from the start. It's based off Blazor REPL, their source code, and since then we have pretty much changed it a lot to suit our needs better. But it basically, every code example on our website is automatically works with this. I think Mike did that. The code is in the link, I think, something like that. Yeah. And it's really useful. It saves us tons of time when we're helping people with issues and trying to help people like implement what they want.
Yeah, and for issues, I mean, people, we encourage everyone, if they have an issue, to reproduce that issue in try MudBlazor, because then they find out if it's their own issue or if it's our issue, and we can look at it and see exactly what's wrong if there is a bug. It's very interesting, and we can just copy paste this code in a try MudBlazor, paste that into a unit test, which I'm gonna talk later, and make a test from that and fix the bug. It's really awesome. But kudos to the Blazor REPL guys. They implemented this. We just styled it a little bit. So we are very happy that they allowed us to use it.
So now I'm just gonna show real quick how this is made up. Do like that. So
That's a lot of divs.
that's a lot of divs. That's a lot of divs. So it's no SVG.
Wow. Just divs with the border radius?
It's
and the rotation.
let's give it a see.
Oh, nice.
Oh, I can't code all of a sudden.
But I say, let's don't spend too much time on how it's made.
No, of course not. I will just show them little quick how
Yeah,
it looks behind the So here you can see every minute in this case, every hour here, have these divs. So when you click and drag and you go over them, it updates. And this circle ones is when you click. So it's made up of a lot of divs.
And so then I'm guessing based on how you describe things, this is all the logic for this is then in C#.
Yeah,
yes,
all of it.
And browsers are very, very fast, so a lot of divs don't really matter performance-wise.
So I will jump over to the next slide, which is also a picker. It's our newest picker, the color picker. And again, we were at this decision making. How will we make this spectrum field or color field? And Benno said to me, "Oh, we will do it HTML canvas," which is great. But the problem with canvas, again, we need JavaScript to make it work, right? And then we came up. I googled, read about colors and whatnot, and to get this field, it's actually, I don't know if any one of you know it, but it's actually just 3 divs. 3 divs with different background color.
Blended over each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, wow.
Nice. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, gradients just overlapped, right?
Yeah. So we have one black one, and we have one that's pure white, and then we have the one with the actual color that you're picking.
Wow. So this is still, I assume, fully RGBA compliant in terms of the color space, but it's achieved via 3 divs instead of, say, having like whatever the number of colors is, 16 million or whatever.
I'm not sure, but I'm sure you're right. I haven't tested this. Like, I wouldn't. Every pixel is maybe not in there, but you can have HLLA, hex, RGB, and we have zoom in, and you can also change the if you want alpha or not. So it's
Wow.
That's really
very
awesome.
full feature. Yeah, really full featured, but and incredibly responsive. That looks, I mean, yeah.
And it's basically a lot of math behind it. I didn't do the math, but Benno did it. And then it's just divs and some CSS. And
Dan popping in with a good quote.
It's available in different. If you don't want your users to have access to all colors in the world, you can use a grid one, compact, or just have a preset palette.
So, and one place I've run into that where you need preset palettes is for things like accessibility, that there's certain like accessibility ratios that you have to have in colors.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and we will get back a little to the color picker later, and theming in general. But now we're gonna jump over to the next slide for Henon.
Okay, so we have full edit form support, and we implemented fluent validation support, but we also added our own form implementation. Originally, we wanted to have something a little bit simpler than edit form, which is you can just add a validation function to every input that you have. You don't even need to have an input model if you don't need one. That was the idea behind MudForm. But later we discovered that edit form doesn't really do async validation, and that was the point where we said, okay, now let's add model-based validation also to MudForm, and thanks to a contributor who implemented this, we now have that. It's basically you can either have the very simple form or you have a little bit more complicated with hierarchical up to hierarchical models. You can have models which contain sub-models, like for instance, if you have a form that for a let's say in a web shop, you have a form where you have different addresses, like delivering shipping address and the other address where your invoice is going to. Then maybe address is a submodel, and you can do that with nested forms in our framework. So you can have a form model address, and you have a subform MUD form that is in a MUD form that has a model that has the model of the address, and it validates just that. So it's pretty popular, our MUD form. Okay, next slide.
Next slide. What's the time? How much time left do we have?
We have about, say, half an hour or so.
Yeah. Then we will do this one now. Hang on, I can.
Okay. Yeah. Our table is has client-side data or server-side data. So you can either have all the data downloaded at once and show everything client-side, then the paginator will just split it into pages, or you decide to leave the data on the server because it's maybe too much to download it at once, and then you have just a function that you define to get data for a specific slide, for a specific page, and it will download that, and the paginator will know from the beginning how many pages there are, and when the user taps on the pages, then everything is downloaded from the server on the fly, and that also works with sorting, filtering, and so on. Yeah, and the table is has virtualization support. It has inline editing support, so you can click on a row, and an editor will open. You can edit the values, and you can cancel that, or you can accept that edit. And there are lots of hooks in there you can use to support that. But it's pretty simple. I mean, we have lots of examples on our webpage, and it should be very easy to get that working. And also, there is multi-level row grouping support. So I think most people will only need simple row grouping, but we can do multiple levels of that, groups within groups. Yeah, MudTable is a huge component. It has grown a lot. There have been so many contributors who have just expanded on what I built in the beginning, and that shows you that our code base is really friendly to contribution. Okay, next slide, please.
Yes, I will jump a little here, Hennon. We'll jump to... Or do you want to continue with dialogues now?
Yeah, let's do it. So, dialogues, our dialogues are pretty cool because when you come from a desktop background, you usually just open a new window when you need it, and we built just that. I mean, you can you have your dialogues in a single Razor file, and there is a dialogue service, and you say, please open this in a dialogue. I want it full screen, or I want it this width, and then it will overlay over your application. You can have multiple of those dialogues. I mean, you can have dialogues that open from dialogues and will just overlay the other one. They can be modal or not. So you have the backdrop click, or you can. There's a lot of options which are well explained in the documentation. You can pass parameters into dialogues, of course, and you can return the values from the dialogue when it closes. And that's most of the time that's pretty okay. But sometimes you want just a very small dialogue, which you can just inline in another component. And for inline dialogues, we even support direct data binding into the dialogue. So you can either have it in an own component, then you have to pass data in and pass data out, or you have an inline dialogue which you place in your component. It is not visible at first, but when you say I want it visible, then it will pop up, and the data is directly bound into the dialogue with two-way bindings. Of course, we also have message boxes, which I find very interesting because you don't have to define a new Razor file for every little dialogue you want to open. If you have some standard things, standard dialogues, you can do that just from the code. You say message box open, and it will open a message box with a number of buttons like yes, no, or cancel, and you get back a nullable boolean, and you can use that with a wait and directly continue in your code. It's pretty awesome.
Awesome. We have a question in the chat from Dan Robb. He's asking, does the mud table implement its own virtualization, or is it using the virtualized component that's provided by Blazor?
We are using the virtualized component, but we have noticed that it would be great if virtualize would have a switch to enable it or disable it, because it was it created a nasty if branch in our code if you wanted to virtualize it or if you didn't want to virtualize it, which for some content you need to disable virtualization. And we avoided that nasty if by creating a mud virtualized component which just adds that the Boolean parameter and then embeds virtualize.
Okay, fair enough. That's great feedback. If there isn't already an issue for that on the ASP.NET Core repo, definitely feel free to open one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and for people who maybe don't know what Dialogs is, it's also known as modals in like Bootstrap, I believe, but it's the same thing basically. Testing. Do you want to talk about that now, or should I take one of mine?
Testing. I mean, that's a major factor of our success is that the library is very, very stable, and we managed to have only a few breaking bugs, but mostly users can expect that things are just working when they get a new version. And we managed that by having incredibly high test coverage. We have over 1,400 tests for every component. Some are even auto-generated by a C# generator. And it just makes the library very stable because, I mean, source code, especially in an open source project, is always in flux, and there's always someone who is adding stuff or changing stuff, and it wouldn't be manageable without tests. So it makes it also very easy for contributors. If you want to contribute and you fear that you might break something, you will immediately notice when you do a PR, you will see our continuous integration server will run your code against our test suite, and you see which test cases didn't work, and you know exactly if you broke something or not. And that's why we, for every PR, we want you to write a test case that that tests all the code that you added, and that the test coverage when your patch is applied will not drop, and that really protects your addition or your change or your bug fix against accidental breakage by future contributions. So, and it's also, we noticed that it is very easy to do big refactorings if they are necessary. Like we have a new popover, which is a lot better performance-wise, which we will be releasing soon, and it needed changes to almost every component. But thanks to our extensive test coverage, it was really easy to find all the breakages. Okay, to the next slide.
To the next. There we go. So this is the slide I was talking about before. MudBlazor ecosystem. Currently, try MudBlazor is, like we said, it's a lifesaver for everyone, for users, developers. If you wanna test something quick, help out a colleague, help out another developer using MudBlazor, it's amazing. You can save your code and build your own components in different files. And as I said before, it's fully integrated with our documentation page. So if we add a new example, you just click the link and try MudBlazor, and you can play around with the example there. Now I already showed it off a bit before, but it's very straightforward, and it technically doesn't have to be MudBlazor in there. You know, it can be regular HTML, divs, whatnot. So it's really been helping us. I think it's one of the reasons why we've gotten so popular in the first place is just the access and use of this tool. Then we have the templates. Anyone can install them. It's regular .NET templates. Works with .NET New, and they also show up in Visual Studio if you're using that. We kind of have our own take of this default Blazor template everyone is used to see, with the counter and the table, weather data. It's basically that, but a MudBlazor variant. And then we have a admin dashboard template, which looks a little more like this. It's not exactly the same version as this one, but pretty much, with some examples of how you can structure your application.
Röntgen, isn't that radiation?
Sorry, say again?
I saw 3.6 Röntgen. Isn't that radiation? Oh, is this reference to Chernobyl?
Yeah. I think there's also incidents like fire in reactor core.
Yeah. We have you can find on MudBlazor documentation page, and here you can find several small Easter eggs.
Well, that's a really nice dashboard. So this is one of the templates, just kind of out of the box.
Yeah, it is, and you can easily use it with. If you install our templates, now I didn't write the name of it, but it's mudblazor.templates. Then you can just specify the template you want when you write .NET New.
So, a nice kind of overall theme I'm picking up here, like you build, in general, you're going to build different sites with Blazor than you would with just, like if I'm going to go and build an HTML, CSS, JavaScript site, right? So a lot of Blazor sites that I'm seeing are more kind of like line of business applications where you're going to need forms and grids and dashboards and input pickers and handle validation and all those sorts of things. And so this like what I'm picking up here, in addition to the fact that it's from scratch, all CSS, all C# based, but it's also this kind of like, it's built for that sort of the kind of apps that you'll likely be building.
Yeah, and I can show it. I don't have a specific slide for this, but like I said in the beginning, we wanted to, or I wanted to create a really beautiful looking component library out of the box, where developers can focus on functions and not sit with CSS. And in this demonstration, I'm going to show you how it can be done without any CSS. This team manager is not really meant for production in any way, but it's a great tool to showcase. So you can change default elevation. Currently, in this setup, it's using the default 25 string array elevations, but you can customize it yourself. You can change out the elevation 25 to 10 if you want that. You can change like font, whatever you like. If you want to build something a little more modern, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, and just as you're doing it, it's reacting instantly. It's extremely responsive.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So then, as you go through and do this is nice for previewing. Can I grab the code that so that I can use that in the app then?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, but that's
a very good idea.
Yeah.
That would be really nice, right? Yeah.
Now it won't let me reopen it for some reason. That's great.
Yeah. I personally used JavaScript frameworks like Vuetify, and Jonny probably used the React framework MUI, and we used a lot. We reused a lot of good ideas from those frameworks because they are also very awesome, and they inspired MudBlazor in a way. They are also you can just take the library, start off, add some components, and it just looks good. You don't have to invest a lot of time in styling things because it looks good just off the bat.
Yeah, and it has we have all font settings. I will show you. We have it documented here. So you have the palette. You can set the warning, successful color, primary, text primary, background colors. This can all be set by you. By default, it's loading our default MudBlazor theme. And here's the shadows I was talking about. So basically, you can swap this out. You can create your whole shadows suite in your team and have your own shadows.
Oh yeah, show the dark mode.
Yeah, we have a dark mode. It's
the best mode, yes.
The best mode. It's not a real dark mode. I really want to add that later on, like a real dark mode, as in the CSS itself. But that's a task for later.
If you don't mind, I'd just like to interrupt. There's a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Someone's asking, is MudBlazor compatible with AOT? And if there are any reflection-related issues?
With what?
I would say AOT is not something that we have been striven for. We have one of our team members has checked it out if it helps, and we found out it just makes the library bigger. It doesn't make it much faster. So it really for us AOT is not really something that helps a lot.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so definitely with AOT, that's definitely one of the trade-offs that you have to encounter, that you definitely get some more performance out of it, but of course that comes with the trade-off of larger DLLs and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I think for a UI, AOT is not really what you need. I mean, a UI doesn't need a lot of performance, you know. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so what I want to show with this is it doesn't have to be material. Like you can change the border radius. Our grid component have spacing. We determine the spacing between the grid items. If you change all of this together, the fonts, the border radius, the elevation, you can create a totally different app. At the moment, we don't have anything implemented like density or size, but it's something we want to add down the road, because that will really and truly allow MudBlazor to, for example, just change the theme to create something more like anti-sign.
Okay, so someone's asking, does MudBlazor support animations?
Yes.
We don't have animations built in as a component yet, but it's coming this fall.
Oh, we have transitions. I think we have a transition component. If I'm not mistaken.
We have for what is it for? It's for the what's it called?
For carousel. For the carousel.
Oh yeah. And
here it's built in, yeah.
Yeah,
it's built in. But that's definitely something that we could add in the future more. Transitions are not documented right now. The component is not public. That could be something for later.
Yeah, I plan this fall to add probably animation component. And also just to do it with CSS classes if people prefer that way. Did we have any more questions regarding theming?
Not theming. There's a question about charts.
Oh yeah, show the charts.
Oh yeah.
We have homemade charts.
Yeah.
They are not very well documented. I started with this last year, I think, as a see how far I can go with Blazor. Oops.
If you expect this to be a copy of Chart.js, it is not. This is a very simple implementation without animations, but for many applications, some charts really make, if they are available, that makes a huge difference if there is a simple chart component available. You don't have to add another package for that if you just want to plot some data.
Yeah, exactly. And I know one of our team members really he have created a new branch with new charts, but we all the time find something more important to work on than to finish the new charts. But hopefully it's coming. I don't want to say a date or anything like that, but I think it's great to have them in the library and ready to use like this.
Yeah, for sure. This is awesome. And sometimes you Short.js is great framework, but sometimes when you're already working with the existing framework, mixing 2, 3, 4 different frameworks into one can just lead to additional bloat and stuff like that. So it's really nice to sometimes have everything in one space, so you can load everything in advance and work with it directly.
Yeah, and I know we halted all development for the current charts, but now we said that if people want to, we will start accepting PRs on this current chart implementation. And there's actually one guy who went through to add better test for all our charts. So when we approve a new PR, we can be sure that it doesn't break current behavior or anything. So that's really great. Yes. Contributors. I think MudBlazor as a open source library has really shown itself because we have a lot of contributors and a lot of people want to help PR, fix bugs, and so on. And without all the contributors, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah, and I'm so happy that this baby has started to fly. It's practically running on its own now. Even if I drop that tomorrow, it will live on because so many people have adopted it, and there's a huge amount of support from the community, and we want to thank those people we showed here on the page who made substantial contributions and helped us a lot. And thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. I believe Dan was asking in the chat. So this is a really amazing project, but it contributes a lot of amazing stuff to the Blazor community. So for people who want to be involved in this specific project, do you have any startup documents or stuff like that on how they can start contributing to MudBlazor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we both have contribution guidelines, contribution code of conduct, and we have just recently updated all our issue templates, PR templates, with some more general guidelines. Maybe you have something more to add, Hanon.
Yeah, it's really easy. I mean, we really appreciate it if you want to help, because every one of us is doing it in our free time, and of course, in the long run, this is gonna be very tedious. So when it's possible, then I mean, if people want to help, we will accept this help gladly. The only thing that we do is we have some quality guidelines. I mean, we have some quality criteria. There must be tests, and the code style that we have in the project should.
I think we may have lost Hanon there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm still here. Am I?
Yeah, you're back. Yes.
So just Pierre, that's it. Just create pull requests. We have a very helpful community. They will help you contribute.
Yeah, and if it goes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and no one have answered, like don't take it personal. We like Hanon said, we all do this in our free time, and we have a lot of things to do.
Yeah, for sure. I think I did a small just docs PR a couple of weeks back, and like the turnaround was less than a day. So yeah, I definitely see the community is really active in there. Awesome. There's someone asking, have you tested this with .NET 6?
Yes.
We have.
Awesome. Okay.
There is even, I think we have we have it even on the internet.
Yeah. 1 second. I'll just see if Mike have done something to it, or
Yeah.
if it's working currently.
And for the future, it is clear that that an open source project can only be sustainable if there is some business behind it. So I have encouraged Jonny to start a company and provide commercial support, which is going to be available soon. MudBlazor is always going to be free for everyone. It's always going to be open source, but we are planning on having a business model in the background so that this is also sustainable for long term.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure there are probably many businesses who are really interested in the framework, but probably want that little bit of extra support to ensure that their specific use case or their support questions can be answered in a priority fashion. So that's awesome. And yeah, I can always support ensuring that open source projects are sustainable and fulfilling.
Sadly, I can't share more information about all that now, but we will put it on our website and Twitter and GitHub when time is ready.
Sounds great. Thank you both. I really appreciate everything that Hanon and Jonny, you have shown off today. I think MudBlazor is an amazing framework, and these are some awesome functionality. Before we go, though, we actually have a very special surprise guest that's going to be joining us. I'd like to welcome Dan Roth to the stream, who reached out and said that he has a short demo that he wants to show off.
Cool.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
Hey.
I'm intimidated. Johnny, whatever I'm going to show, like, will pale. I'm going to just let you know in comparison to what you guys just showed. Like, MudBlazor is amazing. Like, fantastic work. What a just a fantastic contribution to the community. Thank you so much for doing that and sharing your work, and everyone else who contributes to MudBlazor. Thank you for doing that. Great stuff, guys. I just had a quick little demo of something we just released that I thought people might be interested in seeing, which is we just released .NET 6 RC2
Minutes ago.
like just a few minutes ago. It's out there. You can grab the SDK, you can download it, install it, and it has one new feature that we added to Blazor WebAssembly that I thought people might be interested in, which is support for native dependencies. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let's see, it's a two. Oh, no. Click the button, and is that working? Share screen, and I'm gonna share my, perfect. And we're gonna take a look at what a native dependency looks like in Blazor WebAssembly. So this is just a default Blazor WebAssembly app, but you'll notice over here in the Solution Explorer, we have this strange thing. Someone forgot the S in C. This is a C file. I had to write some C code in order to do this demo, which I haven't written C code in like at least over a decade. So I was like, what's going on with where the brackets are for arrays and stuff? This is really weird to go back to C. But this is some C code. And then in the project file, we have this special native file reference that's pointing to that C code. And I want to use that C code in my app. In order to do that, I'm going to use the .NET WebAssembly build tools. This is an optional workload for .NET 6 that you can install via VS, or you can install it on the command line to like tack it on to your SDK, the WASM tools optional workload. And what that will do is that will bring in Scripting and the AOT toolchain, all the fancy tools that we can use at build time to process WebAssembly in our application. So by having this native file reference, we're going to compile that C code into WebAssembly and link it into the running app. Okay, and then in my Blazor code, here's index.razor. You can see I have a normal DLL import for linking up to doing a p invoke into that C code. And up above in my rendering logic, I'm calling that code, calling into C code. So that's what you're seeing over here on the right. And so let's change it. So that factorial of 5, I don't know what factorial 5 is. We'll go ahead and save that and do a hot reload. And there, we just calculated the factorial of 5 using some C code that we linked into the .NET WebAssembly runtime. So that's pretty cool. And why would we do this? Like, well, there's libraries of native functionality that's portable, that can run on WebAssembly. And you might want to use those libraries in your Blazor application. So one example, we worked with the maintainer of Skia Sharp. Skia Sharp is here I actually have the package referenced in this application. Let's pull that up. So Skia Sharp is a .NET wrapper around the Skia drawing library, which is a native library. Skia Sharp gives you like a C# API for calling into Skia for doing custom drawing. And so now with this new support for native dependencies, we can actually link in Skia into your Blazor WebAssembly app and do custom drawing to the browser via the C#, like by calling .NET APIs. So this package was updated with a native file reference, that native file reference we saw before in the project file, this guy right here, and it pulls in Skia Sharp and then links it into the runtime when you build, and we can do custom drawing. So that's what we're seeing in this part of the UI right here. This Skia Sharp text, that's not actually like HTML content. Look up here, I have this SK canvas view, which is a component provided by that package, which is just a canvas that we're doing Skia rendering to. It has this on-paint surface event that I've hooked up. And then down below, I'm using the Skia Sharp APIs to paint some text, Skia Sharp with particular size, font, and color. So that's custom drawing with Skia Sharp by just adding a package reference using the new .NET WebAssembly build tool. So that's something you can try on RC2. Hope you enjoyed that quick demo. Little extra bonus at the end. But MudBlazor is awesome. .NET 6 RC2, give it a try.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Dan. That was a great surprise demo. We have a quick question, just with regards to perf, I guess. What's the speed with the native interop?
So native interrupt, like you're taking native code and you're compiling it right to WebAssembly. So, there's no .NET IL interpretation happening there. Like this is native code just being turned into WebAssembly. So it is very fast, like near native speeds with that code. So you can do if you have some logic that you really want to optimize, this would be a way potentially that you could do it. If you want to write it in C or you're a tool, a language that the Emscripten toolchain can handle, then you can compile it right into the WebAssembly runtime, pinvoke into it to get a little perf boost in terms of how fast it executes. So yeah, very, very excellent performance.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dan.
No problem.
That's awesome. Before we go, there's one final, I guess, community link that I wanted to share. I didn't get a chance to share this at the start, but this is...
I wish I still looked like that. Like it's got that side by
I don't think, like, it's a spitting image. So this, I didn't get a chance to share this at the start, but this is the ASP.NET Core specific blog post for the .NET 6 RC2 release. So this feature that Dan just showed off, as well as the other features and improvements that are brought forth in the RC2 for ASP.NET Core are all detailed here. And I will leave a link to this in the chat as well, so everyone can check it out.
It looks like the Visual Studio update also just dropped. So Visual Studio 2022 Preview 5, which contains .NET 6 RC2, is now available. So you can update to that latest preview. There's also an update coming to Visual Studio 2022 for Mac. That's I think they're planning to do that tomorrow or later this week. That should be coming shortly. That will also have support for .NET 6 RC2 as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a really exciting thing about doing this community stand-up on the Tuesday that it releases. The release either goes out the minute the stand-up starts, or we're continuously refreshing the page in the background to see if this is something that we can show off to everyone, because the page is still going through the steps and so on. So yeah, that's awesome. I don't think there was anything else that I wanted to show, but once again, thank you so much to Jonny and Henan. This was an amazing presentation for MudBlazor. I'm sure the community really enjoyed seeing all the different functionality that MudBlazor has to offer, as well as like how it actually works under the scenes, seeing how, say, the datetime or clock widget can actually work just with divs without any JavaScript or anything like that is really interesting. And thanks for giving us that behind the scenes look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
thanks,
no problem. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And Dan,
yeah.
can you add us to that slide in your presentation for the community project, the great community project, when
Absolutely.
You show .NET 6?
Absolutely. I thought I actually already had, but I will. If I haven't already, I will make sure that I have it there. Yeah,
thanks.
You guys are awesome.
Because we are not. Yeah, we need some publicity. Okay.
That's awesome. And of course, thank you, Dan. That was an amazing surprise presentation. I don't think anyone expected it. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you, John, for joining us. And thank you for everyone watching. I really appreciate you tuning in and seeing all the great work that's been happening in Blazor this month. Well, thank you all.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.